Hey crypto friends, for those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Garrett and I am a crypto day trader whose overall goal here with my channel is to simply help other traders in the most simplistic ways as possible. So in today's educational video, I'm going to be showing you guys a crypto chart that literally tells you when to buy and sell your long-term HODL positions. Now, for those of you who love trading crypto and would like to try out the same exchange that I use on a daily basis, feel free to go ahead and try out the Blowfin exchange here with the link in the video description down below this video. I personally love this exchange because they allow anybody from anywhere to be able to sign up and trade crypto futures. So if you are one of those people and you want to trade crypto futures, you can do it right here on the Blowfin exchange. All right, guys. Now, I know that this might sound insanely simple, and realistically it does, all right? But I know this might sound insanely simple, but quite frankly, most people get this wrong and instead miss out on all kinds of potential opportunities for profits, and it's usually due to fear, all right? Here's the thing, all right? When you are holding stuff or holding various coins for the long-term basis, the goal is not to marry your bags for an indefinite amount of time, all right? By doing this, you miss out on too many profit-making opportunities, all right? I mean, realistically, you really do, okay? There's a lot of people out there who buy their special coin. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to marry this bag and I'm going to hold on to this coin for dear life for the next 2 years or until it, goes to the moon or whatever like that." All right. That's not the way you should be looking at things. It's a very dumb way to look at things because you're going to miss out on so many profit making opportunities by doing that. All right. Instead, the way that you want to be thinking of is you want to be thinking of buying and holding like a mountainous landscape. All right. You simply want to buy in the valleys below so that you can ride the chairlift all the way to the top of the mountain again. And you want to do this over and over on a repeat basis throughout the entire cycle. All right. Realistically, if you are doing this, you will make double the money that you would make if you were just buying and holding one time and selling one time, okay? So here's how I usually do things, okay? When I'm buying and holding, the way that I do things is since 9 times out of 10, I'm usually buying and holding coins that are within the top, within the top 50 by market cap. Mainly because those coins are, they're reputable coins and they usually always do very well in a bull market. All right. And the risk is usually, much, much lower than a small cap altcoin. All right. So what I typically like to do here is I'll show you an example here of exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay. So the first thing that I usually do is I go back to the previous bull cycle and I mark out all of the most major support and resistance levels. All right. So as you guys can clearly see here, all of these orange lines, these are all support and resistance levels from the previous bull cycle for Solana. The bull cycle I'm talking about is right around, 2021 to 2022. Okay. As you guys can clearly see it right here. Now, we will go ahead and move over to the bear market. All right, so this would be the bear market. Actually, I mean, this is all technically the bear market too, but this is technically the consolidation in the bear market. All right, which is typically where you want to buy most of your coins. Okay, so what you would do here is obviously since these support and resistance levels from the very beginning of the bull market were already marked out, we already know where a potential bottom of the bear market could realistically be. And you can clearly see it within these support and resistance lines as well. Okay. So you want to buy somewhere obviously between these two ranges right here where you can see price action kind of moving very, very slowly back and forth, but, within these two ranges, for the most part, nonetheless. All right. Now, the majority of people, they're probably going to start buying when price starts to move, upwards and starts to have, big upward swings. So realistically, you'd probably end up buying somewhere right around, right in this kind of area right in here. All right. Because, most people, they usually wait for those types of moments. And when they get FOMO and they end up buying when price starts rising, like, much more than it usually is rising. All right. So let's say you ended up buying right around in this area. Okay. We're just going to point it right around in here somewhere. Okay. We'll just say, just for shits and giggles and for simplicity's sake, we'll call it right around, let's see here, we're just going to say $32. Okay. So let's say you have $1,000 and you want to buy into Solana for the long term. You want to buy into Solana for the long term, and let's see here, you've got $1,000 and you're buying at $32. So $1,000 divided by $32, that's going to give you roughly 31.25 Solana tokens, okay? So now you've got 31.25 Solana tokens, and you're riding it all the way up, and you're looking at these resistance areas along the way, okay? So when you're looking at these resistance areas, you want to make sure that price action is going to continue to keep crossing these resistance areas with good, solid, strong momentum. All right. Now, obviously, if you bought down in here, boom, we passed that first resistance area with no problem. Boom, we went back up. We passed that second resistance area with no problem, and another resistance area with no problem as well. That tells you that momentum, bullish momentum, is very, very strong. Now, it did end up coming back down to that what would now be a support level. But it did not end up going lower than that, and instead it actually ended up pushing back upwards, and that right there tells you that bullish momentum is still there, and it's probably going to continue going upwards again. So you end up riding it back upwards through that resistance area once again, and boom, we got the same situation going on right here. Went right through the resistance area again, and then the next candle opened, and we went right through another resistance area. So things are still incredibly bullish here, okay? Now, we get to the very, very top, right here, around the $205 mark, and you can clearly see for 4 weeks in a row, all right, 4 weeks in a row, we have got candle openings and candle closures in pretty much the exact same spot. Now, when stuff like that happens, that tells you right there within the price action, that tells you right there that there is some indecision going on at this specific level, okay? Now, when this happens and you've got, let's see here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, you got 4 weeks straight of price kind of moving in that same pretty much the same level right there, that tells you that there's a lot of indecision going on, and the price is probably going to end up coming back down for a correction. All right, and that's exactly what happened there. Okay, so you would want to sell your 31.25 Solana tokens right at that level, okay? Now, obviously, you probably wouldn't have ended up selling right at $205. Nobody ever catches the exact top. That just doesn't happen. So realistically, you'd probably sell somewhere around the $200 mark or so, okay? So if you go ahead and take your 31.25 tokens and you go ahead, 31.25, and you go ahead and multiply that by $200, let's see, you would have made roughly around $6,250, all right? Now, on the way down, when we come down, this is where the support lines end up coming in, all right? So we end up coming down, we hit that first support level right here, and we come down and we go through this support level, but it ends up going back upwards because obviously there's still a lot of bullish momentum there. And then the next weekly candle opens, we end up going back down and going through this support area once again, but end up going right back up. That right there, once again, tells you that there's still bullish momentum going on here. And it happened again in the next week after that, but it didn't go as low as the previous 2 weeks. So that right there, again, tells you that there's still some decent bullish momentum going on there. So when we are riding a support level like this, that tells you right there that there's probably still some good bullish momentum happening in the market right there, okay? And that is probably a good, solid, safe spot to buy again, okay? So if you were to rebuy right there, which would be right around 100, and realistically, you'd probably buy around $140 or so. So you take your $6,250 and you rebuy back in, okay? So you rebuy, so we'll go ahead and divide that by $140. So we'll divide that by $140, and now instead of having 31.25 tokens, now you've got 44.6 tokens, all right? So you've got 44.6 tokens now. And now when we start going back up and down, and we are obviously consolidating within this general range right here, which is normal for any bull market, but eventually it ends up going back upwards, and we start breaking these resistance levels again, and it happens all over again. Now, we get to the very top, we clear the previous high. When we do end up clearing the previous high, that right there tells you that you got to start paying attention to the overall momentum in the candlesticks themselves, okay? So when you can clearly see that, we get to the very top of the previous bull cycle right here, and that again, top of the previous bull cycle, that's some very, very strong resistance right there, so you need to pay attention to that, all right? So we get to the very top of that level, but as you can clearly see, price action ended up wicking back down, and it was not able to have enough momentum to cross through it. And the next weekly candle ended up opening up red and going downwards instead. That right there tells you that, okay, bullish momentum is no longer there. I should probably sell my position. And boom, there you go. You end up selling right around in that area. Now, realistically, once again, you're probably not going to get the exact top. Instead, you're probably going to sell somewhere right around in here, somewhere around like $248 or something like that. All right. So now you've got your 44.6 tokens, and you're going to go ahead and sell at the $248 mark. All right. So now you're selling at $248. Now, instead of $6,250, now you have $11,060. All right. So you've got $11,060 off of your $1,000 investment, and boom, market starts coming back down again, and you ride through the support level, and we get down to the previous support level once again, and boom, you can clearly see it kind of stopped right there, and then the next candle ended up opening up green. When that candle opens up green, that tells you that bullish momentum is starting to come back, and the bulls aren't finished with trying to push this market or trying to push this price action higher once again. So obviously you wouldn't end up getting in right at the very bottom here unless you had, unless you were some kind of magical wizard and you already knew that it was going to stop there. Realistically, you probably get around somewhere around $185 or so. So you do it once again. You repeat the cycle once again. So now you take your $11,000 and you divide that by $185. And now you've got 59.78 tokens instead. All right. So instead of 45 tokens, now you've got 59.78. So you've got 59.78 tokens, and the same thing happens again. You go all the way up to this $260 level again, the previous high from the previous bull market. And obviously, once again, it went all the way up, but it failed to cross and close above it and show continued momentum, and instead it closed right in that same area once again. And the same thing happened once again. The next week after that, it ended up turning red and going back downwards, and that level was rejected. Therefore, you'd want to sell at that, once again, $248 level again, okay? So you go ahead and you take your 59.78 tokens and you multiply that by $248 again. And now you've got $14,825. So realistically, you just did a 14x throughout that whole cycle just by not marrying your bags and instead buying the valleys below and selling the peaks above. All right. It's literally as simple as that. So if you were to do that throughout the whole cycle, you off of $1,000, you would have made $14,825. All right. Now, to put that into comparison, instead, if you were to have bought down here and just held all the way through, all the way up to 250 or so, and not, buying and selling or selling and then rebuying and then selling and then rebuying, and if you didn't do that, let's see how much you would have made. So we ended up buying at, what was the price again? I think the price was around, I think we said $32. All right. So you bought at $32. So we'll take that same amount again, $1,000 by $1,000 divided by $32, a $32 Solana token. So yeah, we're back to 31.25 Solana tokens, okay? Now, if you were to just, marry your bags and you just hold on to it forever for dear God, and you only sell it one time up here at $250, let's see here, you would have only made $7,800. So instead of I don't know about you guys, but I would much rather make, $14,000 instead of $7,800. Realistically, that's a no-brainer right there, right? Obviously people want to make more money than, they could in a different way. So instead of marrying your bags, this just goes to show, this is proof that if you marry your bags for the long term and you just hold on to them forever and ever and ever, and you just stay emotionally stuck and emotionally tied to these bags, you're going to make a lot less than the person who is buying and selling the peaks and valleys. All right. So that is kind of what I wanted to overall go ahead and get across in this video regarding your overall long-term positions here, okay? Overall here, though, honestly, it's really not that hard to do, to be honest with you. The hardest thing to get past is the mindset of thinking that you need to hold on to your bag for months or even years at a time, all right? But doing this makes you miss out on all kinds of different profit making opportunities to make even more money. So that's why I do not ever recommend marrying your bags or becoming emotionally addicted or emotionally attached to whatever special coin that you're holding on to for the long term. Now, before I go ahead and wrap up this video, if you guys enjoyed this video and you got some pretty decent value out of it, please be sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the like button below the video, and leave me a comment below on your personal thoughts of what you thought of this video. And hey guys, with that said, thanks for watching.